Alright. So, we're in the middle of a bit of a tough patch for campaigns as of late, just because the time of year means that a lot of players are in the middle of exams. So, understandably, things are a little bit busy. So that's why, if you're noticing any cancellations of campaigns happening a little bit more often, that would explain it. But luckily, we get to have relaxing streams in the meantime, while we wait for them to have a day that works for them. Such is the way of Dungeons and Dragons, as any DM will tell you. Scheduling is the true final boss of every campaign. So we've made our peace with it years and years ago. So, as I was planning on doing some writing anyway, I figured why not just hang out and do some writing with chat. So, this is a good opportunity to get some, have some impact on some future things. Because for a while now I've been wanting to implement some one-shots, have more one-shots be occurring in the world. And so I had a couple planned, just waiting for days that work for them to implement. But the goal is basically to have some stuff ready so that if we ever need to like last minute cancel, we could do three-person one-shots on nights when everybody has to cancel. Now I actually offered the group tonight to do one, but they two of them couldn't make it, so we're not just gonna do a tiny little one shot like that. So we'll leave it till next time. So in the process of planning out these one shots, I thought it would be fun to have like a couple different almost like half campaigns exist throughout the one shots, like basically a reoccurring character who is a part of different like one shot storylines, and so no matter which group is dealing with that character, they have just kind of little misadventures. For example, we've already worked on one that involved a chef who was trying to get into the culinary guild and was hiring adventurers to aid her in finding rare ingredients. So she would be sort of the reoccurring character, and then from there on we would just have a bunch of tiny little adventures with her and explore different parts of the world and hunt down some rare beasts and rare plants and all sorts of ingredients that she might use. So with that kind of train of thought going, it led me down a path of like, okay, well, what if? And so in the background, I've been working on something that I wanted to kind of implement a little bit more, and that led me to the Candlestick Consortium, which the intent is for it to be mostly player driven in a sense. And so that's why I figured if it's going to be player driven anyway, we might as well work on it on stream and let chat discuss ideas to add to it, because I think it'll be fun once we get it going, because I think it'll give me an opportunity to basically just have a bunch of random one shots at the ready for whenever we want to do them, and that'll help us kind of have opportunities to play more stuff on stream even when people are busy. So let's get into it. For starters, I designed a little bit of a logo because I thought that would be easier to just do. I had an idea for it and I wanted to see if I could do it. It looks a little bit weird right now because we're in dark mode on the browser, so it'll be sort of white with the brown crest, sort of like a leather brown. as you could see on Twitter on the Discord. I kind of have an intent behind the group already, that I have in the back of my mind. But I thought that if we go through the process on stream, then that'll let you guys kind of add little things here and there to add ideas, because I don't have it 100% in stone. I just sort of have concepts that I think might be interesting. So why not just go through on stream? So I've made up some categories here that we can kind of start to write about, in the intent of building the faction sort of from the ground up, so that we can start coming up with one-shot ideas. So I guess from the top, we need a general sense of what this faction is. We'll do that up here before even their general goal. So the idea that I had, because it will help sort of facilitate one-shots, is the Candle Tree Consortium is a group of scholars, archivists, researchers, and I guess adventurers, and spellcasters, as it's sort of spellcasting was the origin. There, the intent behind the creation of the consortium was to here. Let's make the font a little bigger, so it's easier to read. There, that's a little better. The intent behind the creation of the consortium was to allow a space for those with arcane interests to sounds like people who go into write down histories, because two is always my orders to me. Well, so the idea is, I guess you're kind of on the right track. The idea is that they would basically, those with arcane interests or those and scholarly pursuits to be granted the funds and supplies to pursue said interests. So essentially what it is, the founder has an interest in preserving the knowledge and secrets of the known realm, and there's researchers within the Candle Tree archives. So yes, essentially the idea is yeah, a little bit, L. You're on the right track. So basically, there's this successful and rather accomplished wizard who has founded this group called the Candletree Consortium, named after himself, last name being Candletree. And essentially what he's doing is he's finding a bunch of like younger spellcasters, people with interests and like scholarly pursuits, and who want to conduct certain types of research, but just don't have the supplies, the resources, or the money to do so. And then he's just funding it. And he's going, all right, yeah, go. And then when you learn what you're trying to learn, come back and add it to the consortium's knowledge, so that we can sort of collectively all learn the secrets of the known realm. That's the general idea. And so the thought process behind that, when I sort of was thinking it up, was that it would give us an opportunity for players themselves to basically, in a one-shot, make characters who have a particular interest in something, and then I'll just write the one-shot about that. So let's say you're playing in a campaign and you go to like a town for like one session, and then you leave that town to go continue on your quest, and maybe it was like just some little side quest stuff, but you found some interesting lore there that you never really got to fully explore in your campaign. Then maybe we could do a whole Candlestick Consortium side quest where different characters go and they hunt down that little thing and they explore it a little bit more. And so that would give us the opportunity for things that players are interested in to be expanded upon through side stories that all sort of tie back together into this one sort of area. Yeah, basically to let us explore some stuff that you guys found interesting that we didn't get to explore fully. Yeah, I mean, that could be something, and then it would just be like a little one-shot where you go down into the mines and there's some enemies down there, and there's maybe something that kind of distracts from that plot, and then you eventually you learn that, but things like that, yeah. So it can be ancient mysteries, it can be lost cities, it can be things that sank. I think a lot of the things that sort of what this founder, Candletree, intended is that basically a lot of wizards are very solitary people. And so often what will happen is if that wizard is conducting some sort of experiment, say, like designing a new spell or something, or building a magical item or something, and then they just explode or something, like they die in their experiment. They're just some solitary guy. Nobody even knows that they died for like how many years. And maybe their place is like ransacked and stuff. And so a lot of times what happens is that their secrets, whatever they wrote down in their research notes, is just lost to history. Like let's say you're a wizard and you're moving someplace, and maybe you take a boat to go somewhere, and then that boat just sinks and all your stuff is just gone. And so then what do we do with that wizard's research? It's just gone. What if they waterproofed it? It would still sink to the bottom of the ocean. So somebody's got to go and recover that stuff so that their research is not just completely forgotten to time. And so that's sort of the idea behind the Candlestick Consortium. Was sort of that's how he started it. Was that he wanted to basically recover the notebooks of wizards who passed away, in order to basically learn what they were working on and see if it was worth continuing. Yeah, I think Pavlova would like this group. So to preserve, collect, and restore lost research, and to discover arcane secrets and lost histories. That's the general idea. I'll make it a whole thing by your accent. Yeah, exactly. So let's say all those researchers had disappeared, and they'd all died. Pavlova hadn't survived, and like if Pavlova wasn't sick that day and had gone with them and was killed with them, and then maybe if Lady Sullivan had passed away of her illness before she had a chance to send anybody after them, then what happens to all their notes, right? Somebody has to go and collect that kind of stuff. And so that's the idea behind the Candlestick Consortium, is to go make sure that things aren't lost to time, because that'd be a shame if they worked their whole life on something and then just died and nobody ever knew where any of their stuff went. Then it'd be kind of sad. So that's sort of the idea, is this this old wizard has decided that he kind of doesn't want his colleagues, all of his stuff to be lost to time, all of their hard work to be gone, and so he's using that as an excuse basically. So he's collecting stuff, and he's allowing basically his students to learn by doing that. So he's got kind of apprentices and students who he's kind of funding. And so if they have a particular endeavor they want to go on, then he'll fund it. But otherwise, they're just working on collecting stuff and archiving it all while they learn from him, who he's like sort of a master. So the goal is that they would probably be generally good alignment, as their leader is good alignment. But I guess it wouldn't be impossible for someone within the order to go a little bit awry. But the general idea is that they're mostly good. And so I would say probably their core tenets are just sort of preserving knowledge, and then not using said knowledge for evil purposes. Though I'm sure that there would be someone who would join the consortium just looking to gain access to secrets, and then maybe would learn something that would tempt them towards evil or more nefarious pursuits. So I just think that's definitely probably something that could happen. But I think, and then I guess just encouraging young spellcasters to learn and grow, but to do so with responsibility. Okay, so as far as where they would be located, I think it would make most sense for it to be in a city, at least from my perspective. I think locating them in a city would give them access to, I guess, just the everyday amenities that they would need. And then travels could be wherever they want to go, since they're working on the founder's dime. Speaking of which, so it's the name that I had in the back of my head was Avogadro Candle Tree. Though if you guys can come up with a better name, we could change it. I just thought it sounded good because it was like a little mathematical. I changed it to an A instead of an O because Ava just sounds better. It sounds more like abracadabra, and that kind of matches the magical vibe. Yeah, that was with an O though, and that was his last name. I liked it because it was a little bit mathematical, but it also evokes abracadabra, that kind of like magical spell terminology. That's why I kind of liked it. And so, essentially, he will be, regardless of name, a well-established and highly competent wizard who has gained some renown in his surrounding area. He also needs a decent amount of money because he needs the funding to do this. So he has to kind of... I was thinking that we could put him in a city and then we could have him have been like the court wizard for like a noble family, and that's why he has sort of a lot of money. He's been doing that for a long time, and then he decided to kind of strike off on his own to do his own thing. So I think a larger city. He was court wizard and arcane advisor to a noble family, which for many years, which has granted him the funds required to establish so that's the general gist. If you guys have any like things you want to add, feel free to add them. Feel free to throw them out there, because that's the goal here, is to just throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and see what seems fun. For access to amenity. And then do we want, so there's like one main sort of guild hall, but do we want like other like smaller divisions? I feel like that'd be kind of against, that'd defeat the point. Archim? Is that how you pronounce it? Archim? As the name? Is that what you're suggesting? Arkham? Archim? Like, is that the definition of the name? Arc? Is that the definition of that? Is that what that means? I'll jot it down, because I kind of like that too. Both pretty good. Ah, Archimedes. Well, in that case, I do actually have a different character that nobody's seen yet, named Archimedes, with that same concept. So maybe we'll save that for the other character. So, the members of the guild are, yeah, exactly, great minds. So the members of the guild are you guys. Players will make characters for one shots and use that same character for any time they need them. If they die, they can then make a new member. So basically everyone can make one, because there's not really any limit. It's just a guild, so you guys can just all make characters to be in this guild, and then just give them like something that they're interested in, and then bam. And if that character dies, then you just make a new one. And then they just individually join, and it's as simple as that. And so sometimes it'll be sort of like an individual-led expedition. So one of the founder, one of Candletree's apprentices, so one of you guys has an idea, and you kind of lead that expedition, and it's more just Candletree providing the funding, And then other times, because you still are like his apprentices, he'll be like giving you a task. Like, here, I've learned that there's something located somewhere, and so I want you to go investigate, blah, blah, blah. And so that'll kind of let me create a bunch. You guys can have ideas for ones that I can then create and things like that. And so it's player run, but it still leaves me opportunity to give you guys quests. And because everybody's basically making a character for the same guild, we can just mix and match freely, and there's not really anything competing. So we don't have to worry about certain people being here and certain people not. You're just all part of the guild, so you all can go. Whoever's there goes. So for starters, just off the top of my head, one of the allies would be the noble family that that Candle Tree worked for. As we'll say they left on good standing. He just sort of retired almost. And then went to do kind of his own thing in his old age. But left on good footing, so they still kind of help him out with anything that he needs done. As for who would oppose a group like this, that's probably a lot of different people. So for the benefits section, I figured we might do it a little bit like the group patrons. Ba-ba, da-da. Alright. So this is from Tasha's College of Everything. Hey Jubilger. We're building a faction. With chat input. With the intent that they can be readily used for any one-shots that we need to do. Anytime there's like, a bunch of scheduling issues or just like kind of slower periods, or maybe I'm still working on getting one of the other groups running while one of the groups ended and we're kind of in like a little bit of a brief period there, or one group's on hiatus. Anytime we have sort of the space to do it and we just want to run one-shots, then we can just kind of pull them from this group. And so the idea is that it's sort of almost player driven. So basically the Candlestick Consortium, we're calling it, and this is their emblem. And basically what they are, as we've been working out this stream before you got here, is that they're a group of scholars, archivists, researchers, adventurers, and spellcasters. And their intent is basically to provide funding for those with like scholarly pursuits, to be granted those funds, some resources and supplies that they need to basically do expeditions that they couldn't unless they had the resources to do so. Basically, the idea was that it was founded by a wizard with a lot of influence and a lot of kind of renown in certain circles, and basically he didn't want the knowledge of all of his kind of colleagues, who tend to be a bit reclusive. When they die, they don't pass on anything if they don't have an apprentice. All their research and all of their arcane knowledge is just sort of lost to history, because let's say they blow themselves up in an experiment or something like that. Like who takes care of all their research is just gone. And so the idea is that he was trying to collect it all and archive it in his library, and then that became the guild, where he kind of takes a bunch of young upstarts and helps them fund their own expeditions in exchange for collecting information and bringing it back to his library. So we were trying to decide what city. I had one in mind, but if you guys have a better one, I was thinking Marenhall because it's like right on the coast. And I think placing it along the coast would give like access to a lot of traders and stuff coming into the city on boats. Lots of people just traveling in and out from the city because it's a port. So there'd be like a lot of access to just word of mouth information. Plus, it's a big city, so there'd be a noble family that we can have for that ally. And then, if we wanted to do any journeys that involved sailing, then it'd be right there, and we wouldn't have to go anywhere. So I was thinking Marenhall would be a good one, but if you guys have better ideas, throw them out. I mean, throw them into the chat, not throw them in the garbage. That's not what I meant. Throw them out there to the world. Yeah, it's Marenhall is sort of a very large city in the Seven Baronies, and so it's recognizable. You tell people, yeah, we're located in Marenhall, they know exactly where to go. And so I think that it kind of works pretty perfectly. I guess it could be Rainbridge, but it's just not as much fun as Marenhall. It's too rainy there. And the North kind of already has their own things going for them, whereas Marenhall was sort of just a port city at the moment. So we could add this to them to just kind of... just something fun to put in there. I think... yeah, exactly. We don't want it to be raining too much. I think Marenhall is what we'll say tentatively, and then if we come up with something better, we can change it. But so Marenhall would make it the Marissois family of Nyanhari. So that would make these ones the Marissois. So he would know the nobles, the Nyanhari nobles of Marenhall, as he would have worked for them for a time. Is it to? We'll type that in. Marissois. Yeah, because Marenhall wouldn't be too warm. It wouldn't be too cold. It would be kind of just sort of very temperate, not too much rain, because that's sort of Rainbridge's thing. I think it'd be good environment for his library. So the members would be you guys mostly, would be players. People who want to do one-shots can be the players, and all they have to do is make a character. And then that can be their character for the Candlestick Consortium. And then any group that wants to kind of be put together to go explore something can be put together out of the groups that exist within the Consortium. So all you need to do is make a character that has a motivation to be there. And that'd be good enough. And then if your character dies on an adventure, since they're all just one-shots, if your character dies, then you just make a new one and start over. But I think we should also do a couple NPCs too. That way I have people to talk to. I have some NPCs for the players to talk to when they're at the consortium. We won't make a bunch of them, but just a couple NPCs. For players to talk to. Which among that group would need to be... we would need, well, obviously Avogadro would be one of them. And then there'd be like a head librarian. And then like maybe some sort of maid / butler that kind of like helps do some of the housework around there. since Avogadro is like an eccentric wizard, and the librarian's always busy. We need probably a couple librarians. Yeah, Rindrov can come back. You can put Rindrov in there if you want as your character. Because everybody can make a character. Kind of like how everybody's made characters in the Soul Forge. We'll just let everybody make characters for the Candlestick Consortium, and then they'll all be like, I don't know, level 5 or something. Or maybe we'll start them at 3 and level them up as they do more quests. I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but we'll just see how we feel. Librarian. Let me... Reginald Durley. I like that name. I'll jot it down. Reginald Durley. Because we need a couple people. So there's at least like a head librarian, and then maybe like archivists, people who are like copying. So okay, another thing that I forgot to mention is, this serves as basically like an in-universe guild for Order of Scribes Wizards. So you can be a scribe wizard without being involved with this group if you really want to. That's perfectly fine. But this is just sort of something that the scribes wizards can claim as their own. Now, not everybody who is here needs to be a scribe wizard. There'll be tons of different types of people here. But this is just sort of, a lot of times I like to just emphasize certain classes and subclasses within a group, just so that everybody feels like they have their own little kind of unique little niche. No, Al, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be the largest. It would be big. It would be a library. But it wouldn't be the biggest. Since basically how it started out is Avogadro's personal collection, which wouldn't be massive. It'd be a significant amount of books because he's been around for a while and he's a wizard. But it wouldn't be massive. It'd just be enough to fill a normal library. Plus anything that people have recovered so far. But we don't want to like make them totally established. We want them to kind of be a little bit early on in the guild, so that it can kind of grow as we do one shots. So it's not going to be huge. It's going to be a pretty humble library to start with, and then it'll grow. The biggest collection of knowledge, the Library of Alexandria for Grand Lorien, is the Cascades, which have so many books in them that they had to start putting them in underground catacombs that they found. And they put so many books down there, and then so much time has passed that they straight up do not know how many books are down there anymore. So is that just bookworm backwards? So right where we were going when J Bulger came in, was that we were doing the benefits. So what would you get out of being associated with this guild? So that's why we were looking at this group, or this page over here, which is in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. About group patrons. It's okay, J Bulger. We're looking for contributions like that, so it's all good. So essentially, it's just a general guideline and helping hand for designing sort of patrons. So I just wanted to use it as a little basis so we could peek through it. I think Academy would probably be where we'll start off. So, because it kind of fits the same vibe. But as far as sort of the types of academies, it's not going to be like a boarding school necessarily. There'll be lodgings. I think we should do lodgings there, just so that, like, there need to be places to stay. Like everybody who creates a character can have their own. Everybody can have their own room, and then if they really want, they can like add little custom details to it that I could like add to the map. We'll just make like a bunch of rooms. So it won't be necessarily a boarding school per se, but there'll be lodging. So I think, hang on, let's jot that down. There's lodging. Lodgings. Arcane Enclave. I think it's sort of that. It's not like a secret monastery. These are just sort of little guidelines, starting points, but I just thought we'd read through them. It's definitely not an elite institute, because they'd be kind of almost like a lot of them would be kind of new to spellcasting, because he's kind of finding younger spellcasters. They're not incredibly accomplished. Not the best of the best. It's okay to be a little bit bumbling, because he just kind of he appreciates more your yearn for knowledge than your accomplishments. Vault of Secrets, it's sort of half that, but it's not necessarily hiding away conspiracies of the world. But it ends up sort of being that way, and it's definitely not a museum of dreams. So, do we pay them? I mean, he's providing room and lodging, so room and board, so they get fed and they get a place to stay for free. So do they need to be paid in addition to that? Maybe. Maybe he can provide like funds for journeys rather than like just like giving them a bunch of money. He'll like fund a journey, like he'll give them an allowance basically for a trip, but depending on where they're going, because they're not like made of money, but they're also not poor, since the founder Avogadro has that sort of background with the wealthy family. They're not starved for cash, but they're not just gonna throw money away. So I think rather than just like paying everybody money like per day they've been there, that just sounds like a nightmare to track. I think we'll just instead, yeah, we'll do like either they get a reward for finding something, or he provides a bit of both, maybe provides like allowances for journeys. As for documentation, I don't know if they would like have like, they wouldn't be like that renowned necessarily. It's not like they're gonna like flash their badge like they're like FBI or something and be let in everywhere. I think it would maybe earn you a little bit of respect with certain circles. Like maybe other wizards might have heard of the consortium. But again, we want them to be kind of starting out, so that there's room for growth. We don't want them to be too accomplished. Thank you for the follow, Mr. Crow. We don't want them to be too accomplished, because we want some places to go up from here. So I think maybe certain circles might recognize you. Certainly the Mary Swa family would be maybe more willing to do things for you. So I guess we can jot that down. Lodgings, and then standing with the Mary Swa. And so, some benefits of their patronage. So you would never be starving as long as you're working with the Mary Swa family. And let's say you like, oh, we need a boat. Maybe the Mary Swa could be like, all right, yeah, sure. There's a fishing vessel that isn't setting out for a few days. We will redirect it and we'll let you use it. Something like that. Like minor things that the Mary Swa family could help you out with. Or like, let's say you're trying to do something within Marenhall and somebody's not being cooperative. Then you could have the Mary Swa's family step in and be like, listen, you need to help them out. I think things like that could be good, but like if you're all the way like across the sea in like Kael Tahara or something, people are gonna be like, the Mary Swa family, who's that? So it has a limit to it. So you won't be just renowned in all circles, but people will maybe have heard of it. And then maybe some standing with certain wizard circles. As some people would know the founder and respect him, and that would kind of give you a little bit of standing with them, but it also might work in the opposite direction, right? If some people know Avogadro and they think that he's a dumbass or something like that, they don't like him much. They think that he's too optimistic. Maybe they're a little more evil. Then they might like you even less if you say that you're associated with him. Maybe they believe that knowledge is to be hoarded and not shared like he's doing. That maybe he believes maybe they believe in the opposite of this one, doing so with responsibility and not using knowledge for selfish or evil purposes. Maybe they want to use them for evil purposes, so that would definitely not, they wouldn't like you. So yeah, you get a bit of standing with certain circles, but it only goes so far. I think that's fair. As far as research, I think that's probably the most obvious one. So research is part of your group's job, but your patron also has abundant resources to facilitate such efforts. You can call in a favor, delegate the work of researching to a colleague, contact librarian, research assistant. Yeah, so that could basically be minor things, like that could even be off-screen research that your own character is doing, just with the aid of any supplies that they have. So I think research, supplies, and facilities. So you have a place. I think tying into this, we can make like a workshop that they could have available to them. Basically, like maybe it's in the basement or something, like the stone cellar where they have these workshops set up. And then, like, if you want to practice brewing certain potions or casting certain unstable spells or using a magic item you never used before, then they have all these resources for things like that, to brew up new things in a more safe environment. So you would have access to all that stuff, plus any like spell reagents and stuff that you might want to use, as long as they're not incredibly rare spell reagents. How you can use them to so they would have access to spell reagents as long as they aren't like super rare things. I think that's fair to say. Okay. So we'll just do this so we can tell them apart, because that'll help. Okay. Allies and enemies. Who would not like a faction like this? Who would hate these guys? I would say probably like self-interested parties. So essentially those who want to hoard knowledge for themselves, those who would want to use knowledge for various means. Humans? I mean, I was kind of thinking that Avogadro would be a human, so I don't know if that works out, but fair enough. Let's make this bigger. Self-interested parties. Also welcome, Hunslander. Maybe like rare artifact hunters. Those who would rather keep something for themselves instead of it being collected by the consortium. I think keep it for themselves slash sell. I think people who would want to like find something magical, or who maybe who stumbled across something magical and then are planning on either keeping it for themselves because it's an artifact of some power, or they want to sell it because they think it's valuable. I think those would probably be people who wouldn't be particularly happy with the consortium trying to go reclaim it to be added to the collection and studied. Basically, the the bad guys in all the Indiana Jones movies, they would be enemies of the consortium. Because we're basically, this group is the it belongs in a museum group. Can you guys think of any other groups that might not like them? I guess maybe like cultists or something, like groups that don't want what they're up to being exposed. Like, let's say you're trying to plan a blood sacrifice and all of a sudden there's a bunch of dudes poking around like, hey, what's going on here? Can we study that? Oh, you're doing something evil. They'd probably try to stop it. So I think any group that's kind of guarding any sort of secret or evil magic, I think we'll probably jot down something like that. The cat, yeah, I was actually thinking about that, Jay Bulger. Not like pure enemies, like they're not gonna be like killing each other on sight, but maybe not particularly fond of each other just because the Cascades are focused on like collecting, preserving, and like hoarding, and this group is also kind of doing that. And so Avogadro's goal is to sort of like send people out into the world. The Cascades are very like reclusive, and I think they wouldn't see eye to eye. So maybe not hate, but they would annoy each other, certainly. So I think you would maybe you might have to compete against Cascade scholars who were interested in something similar, but you wouldn't necessarily be trying to kill each other. You might not go that far. So I was actually going to jot that one down too, because I was thinking the same thing, so good thought, Jay Bulger. The Cascades probably wouldn't love these guys, but they're not trying to murder them. And then, yeah, somebody who is like a rival of Avogadro would not like his group, but just by default. Yeah, I don't think that Avogadro would have them compete like that. He would just have them work together. If you were in the same guild, if you were hunting for If you're hunting for something and Avogadro knew that both of you were hunting for it, he would just encourage both groups to work together. I don't think he would. I don't think he would. He wouldn't have them compete unless it was like purposefully lighthearted. So maybe he would like schedule a race or something just for fun at some point when it's not as like important. If it's just like finding some old book that he doesn't think has some sort of like hidden power, like it's not some like blood magic tome. If it's just like some researchers notice, but then maybe he'd like organize a hunt, like a race, just for fun. That could be maybe a concept, yeah. But they wouldn't be harshly competitive because he would share all the knowledge that all the groups get with the other groups. Like everybody wants to kind of work together. He wants to create like a collaborative environment. So I don't think they would necessarily dislike each other unless they're just like interpersonal dislike, because that's reasonable. Those who are guarding evil magic, so cults, necromancers, evil wizards, sorcerers, warlocks, and stuff like that. Powerful magical monsters like liches and beholders and stuff like that, who would have kind of their reasons to want to keep what they know to themselves. Knowledge is power, and they like being rich. Yeah, for sure. Just give me 1 second. Intoxicating Rose. I'll do a little recap. I just need to jot some stuff down so I don't forget it. The Cascades we mentioned, they would be. Cascades would be not enemies, but would be annoyed by you. And then rival within the guild. And then we'll just say Avogadro would encourage friendly competition. So, Intoxicating Rose, we are working on basically a player-driven guild that we can just turn to anytime we want to do a one-shot. So the idea is that anybody who's involved as a player can just create a character that just sort of sits in this guild, and then anytime we want to run a one-shot, they have a character to turn to right away. And so the idea is that the guild has a lot of interests and can be used for a lot of different types of adventures. So the group that we've designed right now is called the Candlestick Consortium. And essentially they're a group of scholars, archivists, researchers, adventurers, and spellcasters who are basically trying to collect artifacts and document secrets and reclaim and basically restore things that have been lost to time. And so basically we would have these groups of like scholars and researchers going off to find something. Let's say one of them is interested in finding a hidden city, a lost city in the jungle from an old civilization, or underwater, something like a shipwreck. Then the leader of this guild would basically fund it, like giving a research grant. He would fund the journey for them to go find it, and then the deal is that they bring back anything they find so that it can be studied, and sort of like a museum almost, but for magic. And so they would preserve, collect, and restore lost research. The idea being that a lot of wizards who are practicing very dangerous experiments, trying to learn new things, but are also kind of reclusive. They live off on their own in towers far away. So if something ever happened to them, their research would just be gone forever. And so that feels like a crime. Yeah, it feels like a shame, basically, to our guild leader, Avogadro Candletree. And he would rather that research be collected and studied to see if it has merit and maybe someone wants to continue it, rather than it just being lost forever because someone had an accident. Like, let's say a wizard's just like trying to concoct a potion and they just turn themselves to stone. Like, who's gonna go and fix that? Who's gonna go find out what that person was even working on in the first place? Maybe it was a cure to a disease or something that might be valuable knowledge. And so Avogadro is sort of this established wizard who kind of knows a lot of other wizards as long as they're relatively good aligned wizards. And so he keeps in contact with some of them, and if they just sort of stop talking to him. Then he maybe sends his group to go investigate, but he also provides research grants and funding and resources to young spellcasters and scholars who have this yearn for knowledge and want to go find some hidden secret in the world or recover some lost knowledge or artifact. And so he'll kind of help them go on their journey by funding them. He actually, this brings us to another benefit I was thinking of. So we've been just jotting down notes. Basically, we're working on that and using chat input to sort of shape a faction for the living world of Grand Lorien, which is the world in which I DM all the campaigns on this channel. So speaking of benefits, we talked about lodgings. So you'd have a place to stay and food and drink, all provided for free. And then you'd also have a place in the workshops. You'd have some standing with the Marissois family, since we said maybe the founder was like their court wizard before he retired. And then you'd also have some standing with certain wizards. But I think something that Avogadro, to facilitate these being one-shots and not having to worry too much about the journey to places and just focusing on what we want to do when we get there, I think it'd be cool that like a sending hall, basically. Something that's making me laugh is that Laura with a capital like that is an emote in our chat, so that's just, it's kind of perfect. So like a sending hall would basically be a large engraved stone circle from which Avogadro can basically teleport his research parties to areas with which he is familiar. So it's not just like perfect teleportation. He can't just name a place and you instantly go there. He has to have kind of been there and be familiar with it. So we could send you overseas to a city that's closer to the place. As long as he's been there, then he can help you out. That way, for one-shot purposes, we don't have to worry about arranging journeys. It'll let us start at the consortium each time for the one-shot, so that they have a second to, like, you know, think about what they want to bring and kind of build to the adventure. They're not starting during the journey or at the end of the journey. They're starting kind of at the place, then he teleports them out. And he brings them a little closer, and then we skip the shorter journey. I feel like that'd be something that Avogadro would be interested in building, because it helps facilitate the goals of his guild. And so it kind of only he can use it, because it's sort of a very powerful magic, and it has limited purposes. Like, you can't just go anywhere. And he's kind of afraid to use it to send you anywhere, because he might teleport you into the ocean, like miles underwater, or he might teleport you inside of the walls of a place. So he only does it with places he's familiar, and he prefers open areas. So like the gates outside of the city, or things like that. I think that would kind of place a limiter on it, so it's not too strong, but it's still useful, and it's still something that he would want. And then maybe we could give a smaller magic item that returns them to the sending hall, but has a long cast time. So it takes like an hour to cast this magic, but it returns them to the hall. So that they can't just bail out if they're in trouble. They can't just instantly teleport back. It takes a long time to cast. But so that they don't have to travel all the way back once they get there, they can teleport back. So I think that'd be a reasonable thing to allow them to have. I think that would help us facilitate one-shots being short sessions that don't need a bunch of setup. You just get there, and then you have fun at the location. We don't need to waste your time traveling. The Lost Lore Initiative, driving force behind the consortium, is Magna Carta, written by Avogadro Kanji himself. I like the idea that he's got some secrets, like he's kind of, you know, he's got a history. So I think things like that are kind of interesting. Tired of magic research being stifled by the reclusive. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what kind of built it. It's not necessarily like annoyance per se with his compatriots in the arcane arts. It's more just like he felt bad that whenever one of his colleagues would just disappear off the map because of some sort of accident, or even like a rival wizard or something, that he would have like no way of contacting them anymore once his sending stones don't work. That he would have no way of knowing what happened, and he worried that their research would be gone. And so he's kind of, yeah, he's created this guild to try to combat that. Yeah, and it's sort of, it's like he has a very like kind of pure-hearted way of doing it. He's not gaining knowledge for power, he's not doing anything like that. He just likes knowing the secrets of the world. He just has like a yearn for what's out there. He wants to sort of compile it and understand the mysteries of the known astral plane and all that. And so he's just kind of, he's learning stuff. It lets us basically take anytime a player has something they're interested in, like something that they touched on briefly during a campaign, but their campaign wasn't really about it, so they didn't get a chance to explore it too much. Then we could just do a little one-shot about it where you learn more about it as these researchers, and it lets us kind of add some lore to the world, expand on things, learn maybe some stuff that you can't always work into a campaign, and just explore little things that the players themselves are interested in. That's sort of why I wanted to do this player-driven, which is, I think the last little section here is basically research expeditions. So I have a million things that I can come up with myself. But I want this to be player driven. I might even, I don't know, I might make a suggestion box on the Discord, like a channel where you guys can just suggest things, maybe like certain homebrew that you want to see like implemented in the world that you like, or ideas for one shots and things like that. So that might be fun to add. Just a little channel to the Discord. But for now, if you have any right now, can be vague, but like things, those who are more familiar with the living world might have an easier time with this. Which speaking of, exclamation mark lore, that's the link to the world info if you want to know more about the world that all these games take place in. So if you have any like places that you particularly want to see explored more, that we just haven't had the time to, because writing campaigns and running campaigns takes a while, then the perfect opportunity to do that is in one-shots. So feel free to kind of throw them out there, and I'll jot them down in here so that I can start kind of formulating how a one-shot involving that concept would go. And then we'll just have a bunch of them kind of ready. The Midnight Show. Actually kind of, yeah, the Midnight Show. I had some ideas with that. You made me spell it wrong. But that's alright, because to be honest, it's kind of both. It's both of them. And I hummed and hawed back and forth about which one I wanted to call it, because it fits both. It fits both words. Both of them would be perfectly fine. They're kind of interchangeable in this circumstance, because that mountain range fits both. But I went with Vale because it sounded a little bit cooler. Yeah, okay, that's definitely one we could do. Something up in the mountains. As to what it is, that could be one of the ones that I kind of have to write more myself, since we haven't really explored that much on stream. See, now you're placing all this pressure on me. Now I feel like it's got to be really cool. Nah, I know what's located there. I just I need to kind of get it down better in writing. Yeah, so the Midnight Veil. I think things like lost treasures could be anything from like pirate to like desert, like Arakokran kind of Egypt vibes. Egypt. This is rough notes, so we can be a little bit fourth wall break. Like kind of Indiana Jones kind of style stuff, things like that. We could do like lost cities, temples, tombs, things like that. Like maybe you're just hunting for the grave of like a certain figure, and then just finding that would you'd learn a lot about the area and like that person themselves. You want to go into Syndrome's Eye? Is that what you're saying, Al? It's a short one shot. Maybe eventually. That could be one we do eventually. I'll jot it down. Into Syndrome's Eye. Oh, I'll just write eventually. And then, so things like recovering the notes of a deceased wizard / researcher. Because you could learn things like that too. Like maybe they've been doing particular research into something and you just go and recover their notes. You can learn things from that as well. Yeah, it's just the one shot is always Avogadro teleports you to a port that is near Syndrome's Eye, like the closest port to Syndrome's Eye, and then you sail on your boat deep into the eye, and then you all disappear, never to be seen again. And then the next one shot is a group of people who are trying to figure out what happened to that previous group, and then they follow them into the eye, and then they disappear, never to be seen again. And then the next one shot is just an endless cycle. That's like the easiest to write one shot ever. Just lets me reuse all the same maps. Yeah, so if there's like concepts or things that you guys are sort of interested in, little tidbits of lore that maybe you wanted to see explored but never got the chance to in a campaign or something like that, something that caught your eye, that's a good place to do just a little one shot about it, to try to learn some more. And just lets me do lore dump without having to always include everything into a campaign, because the longevity of some campaigns means that we don't cycle around them very fast. So it feels like when there's a campaign set in Middlemere, you want to just do everything Middlemere, because everything that Middlemere has, because like when's the next time we're going to come back here? Like a year from now. So I think having these opportunities to do one shots lets me not only just bring back groups that not only bring back groups that are kind of in the middle of seasons, and just play with them for fun on certain days when we have time, but they could even pick something that related to their campaign, that they want to explore a little more, and just kind of have an opportunity to see other sides of things through that. Whispers of Secret Organizations. Are you thinking of one in particular? Because you'll have to wait for that one, unfortunately. But yeah, sort of like secret organizations. Yeah, sort of like hunting down like evidence of them actually existing and things like that. Maybe they had some sort of secrets that we want to explore, and so the first step is finding out if they exist, and then hunting down their headquarters and things like that. Wow, we actually got a lot done. Yeah, exactly. The illithid naughty. The a whole one shot dedicated to DM. Is it really true that all the Dragonborn are technically from space? To which the answer is yes. But you guys know that one already, don't you? It's like technically. Someone didn't read the lore. Wait, I think it's in here. Yeah, you did. So, the progenitors of all the dragons and all of the technically then all the Dragonborn, since the dragons created the Dragonborn, they came from the astral plane. They were not native to this star. Dragons are not from this star, and so technically the Dragonborn do not come from the star of Lorien. Yeah, that's what that meant. They're from the astral plane. That's space. Yeah, that's why. That's why the third one is called Merciel the Stardiver. That's what that meant. I mean, that's sort of what dragons are. Could you imagine being like just vibing on the star of Lorien, and then just massive dragons show up? You would consider them gods. And lots of people do. I mean, the Dragonborn definitely do. They essentially created them, so of course they do. So they are basically star gods. And it was a very, very long time ago. So they're basically native to the star now. But also, when I say star, I'm just saying planet. But I don't think planet. Planet sounds too scientific. And I think we're a medieval universe. We're a little more magical than that. So I think they would look up in the sky and they would see all stars. And they would go, we're one of those, right? If you looked at us from a distance, we would look the same. And so they would call it a star. Plus, it's just cooler. Okay, I think we've done a lot of work here. I think we could probably leave it here for tonight. I just don't see any reason why they would go, we're a planet. They would just look up and they would go, all of those things in the sky, that must be like what we are. So we are also a star. So that's why they call it the Star of Lorien. They're talking about the planet when they say that. Sounds cooler than Realm. Those lights are gods? Yeah, that's also a pretty good interpretation. I'm sure there's some like peasant who lives in the forest who thinks that. Every star is a god. That's a lot of gods. Okay, so do we want to add to any? What about allies? We got a bunch of enemies, but we didn't come up with very many allies. I guess we can say like other friendly wizard associates of dead people spirits. Yeah, I can see that one too. Like when you die, you go and become a star. I can see that one being valid too. I'm sure that, yeah, I think probably there's different interpretations. The Star of Lorien thing is more specifically like a scholar thing. Your average peasant isn't going to be talking about the star necessarily. They're not concerned with that kind of thing. It's just like, I live in this forest. They're not like, I live on the Star of Lorien. It's like, I live in this forest. That's where I live. What are you talking about, star? But like scholars and sort of people more focused on the cosmos would probably refer to it as that. So wizards and arcane people, they would probably refer to it like that. So I think everybody kind of has their own interpretation. There'd be different cultures, so everyone would have their own look. Wizard associations of Avogadro associates. Who else will be friendly? I guess maybe just like patrons with their own motivations. So like, I guess if we use sort of the analogy of Indiana Jones, it'd be like the guy who's going along with Indy because he doesn't really care about the cultural or research-based significance of anything. He just thinks that, oh, if we go find that lost city, there's going to be treasure there. And so like he would go with you and maybe help, maybe has some of the information that you need to get there. Like he found some sort of artifact in like an antique auction or something, and that led them to a discovery. And so there's sort of like an outside patron who's helping you, but still has their own kind of motivation. It could have like some fun potential for like even a betrayal at the end. Yeah, people throw on motivations, so like they want to get rich off of what you're hunting for, and they just want to use you to help find it. Money, fame, things like that, right? People who are maybe even betray you for power. Maybe they would just try to find a way to gain that knowledge too. Who would sort of seek out the guild as like, the guild are sort of experts, and you need those kinds of people to go with you on your expedition, but you maybe don't want them, you're not going to give them everything, right? Well, we're not going to hand everything over to Avogadro and his people. We'll keep some of it for ourselves, and then they can keep all the books, you know? But we'll take the gold. Like, people like that could probably be motivated enough to work alongside the Candlestick Consortium. I think that'd be reasonable. What other rooms could we have in this archive? We'll have like, I guess we'll just make a separate section at the bottom, just so that we don't have to busy up the other one. Just rooms within the Candle Tree Archives. So we need lodgings, and then I think each apprentice gets their own room. Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. Could provide a bit of temptation for some players too. And then since it's just a one-shot, they could totally die by meddling with meddling with dangerous things in the archives. That could be interesting. Get in trouble with Avogadro, so he sends you on like an annoying errand to go do your quest. Go do instead of your interesting quest. Okay. Then there's the workshops. I was thinking maybe like a cellar. Yeah, lodgings, and then like a dining hall, which could be used for like recreation too. They could just hang out there. And we're not trying to make like this huge campus. It's not going to be the size of even Nolevent. So it's just going to be kind of like a building. It's bigger than an inn, but smaller than a school. It's not huge. So there'll be like, I think probably just use the dining hall as a lecture hall too. Like if you needed to meet with everyone or talk with everyone, we could just use the dining hall. I don't think there's any reason to make 2 rooms for that. And then like a vault for dangerous stuff. And then I think Avogadro needs like a tower. And so I think maybe we could make it that like he has this tower at the top of it. And because it's so high up, it like conducts what he's doing better. So it could be like sort of an astronomy tower. And then the astronomy tower doubles as his sending hall. Because it's so high up. Closer to the moon. So that's where we could send people from. Teleport them from that hall. I think we'll do like a spiral staircase. I think that'd be cool. All the way up. And then of course we need the library. And then maybe like with a back room for like archiving things and sorting them. Like before it gets placed in the library, they need to like maybe create a copy of it so that they have one in case it's lost ever, and then place it in the library. And so they kind of need a little back room to work. Then of course, since they're going to be eating here, there's a kitchen. What do you mean by a viewing hall? What do you mean by that? Elaborate. Kitchen and like supply closet for like cleaning stuff. Kitchen, food, cellar, and supply closet / like storage space. I suppose we could make like a smaller conference room, like rather than like just a small little area that they could like show off and like maybe teach new things. I think that maybe like a small. I think maybe you're right. Yeah, probably a small conference room with only like, I don't know, 20 seats or so. Not like this huge hall, but just like a small little thing where lectures could be given in case he needs to teach everyone about something, or maybe someone who's recovered something can teach the others about what they've learned. I think that'd be a neat thing to do. It could double as the gallery maybe. So we'd have like maybe a couple workshops down here. Not everyone would have their own individual workshop. Maybe if you were like important enough to the guild, like you'd been there for years and you were like the established expert on potions, maybe you would have your own little area. But I like the idea that we can kind of expand, since it's a wizard who has a lot of money. So we can kind of just like start to build on top of things if we want to make it bigger, and we don't have to like worry too much about actually expanding stuff and the logistics of that, because he's a wizard. So we can just kind of like, you know, we'll just add a room. We can kind of hammer space the thing a little bit, since it's a wizard running it. Gives us a little bit of wiggle room to just magic away a lot of the annoyances of construction. It'll take some time still, but it won't be nearly as difficult as it would be to do in an actual medieval setting. Okay, is there any other rooms we can think of? I like the idea that the library's kind of got like places to sit and read and study and stuff like that. So we'll kind of include that in with the library because it'll give a good vibe. We don't need a whole separate study room necessarily. Like the workshops can be used for studying. Your own room can be used for studying. Yeah, I guess a bathroom. It's fair enough. And then we'll just add that up here. Like bathroom can be like sort of larger one. We'll do like a bigger one and then maybe like bathtubs and stuff. I don't know. It'll just be a simple thing. We don't even have to make a map for it. No one's gonna go to the bathroom in a one shot. But we might as well write it down. I say that now, and now because I've said it, it's gonna happen. Someone's gonna make it their expressed goal. Yeah, exactly. Now there. Okay. I'm pretty happy with what we've come up with. I like this. I think this could be a lot of fun to do a bunch of like weird. Oh, hang on. Pirate, desert, our coconut. Also like underwater city vibes, like sunken city stuff would be cool to do. What kind of religious groups would we say for enemies? Because that I said that really vaguely to like encompass a lot of different groups, because that could be like a religious cult who's guarding the practices of their blood sacrifices. It could be a wizard who wants to use his own magic for nefarious purposes, who needs to be stopped. Like it could be a lot of things. So I made it vague, but religious groups who like I wouldn't even say this is really science though. This is definitely magic in a very magical sense. So they're magical experiments. This is very not technology based. So I wouldn't say that they're necessarily scientific. They sort of have the same work patterns of a scientist, but through magical means. I suppose I don't really have any anti-magic groups necessarily, like that oppose it as like all specifically evil. Just because magic is so prevalent in D&D that it just feels like any group that existed like that would just be really unrealistic. Like magic is so ingrained into the world at this point that like if it would be like a really fringe group. So I suppose that's possible, but they would definitely not be they'd definitely not be very common. I guess we could say that though. Like groups that dislike magic. Yeah, I suppose that's reasonable. Or dislike the experimentation. Yeah, I could see that kind of being certain people's viewpoints. Disliking the meddling of wizards, preferring to just channel the magic through a god. It's reasonable. Well, have you been watching me type? Because if I called you out for that, then I would have no ground to stand on. So it's all good. Yeah, so this will be our group. This will be our boys. The Candlestick Consortium. And that'll let us mess around with a bunch of stuff. Have some fun. be? We're helping a wizard who screwed something up. Like something like that. I guess we can make that its own category. All right. I think, yeah, we did some pretty good work today. It's been like over, yeah, almost 2 hours now. And I think I can see, I have the vision of the guild now. I can picture them in my mind. I can picture the grounds where they perform their research. I can imagine the adventures that we can go on, which is that's what I need. I need a solid picture in my brain of how to move forward with them. So I think there's a lot of stuff we could do with them, and just have some kind of fun, kind of maybe even a little bit more lighthearted, just kind of things that can wrap up quickly, or just kind of, yeah, just do different things with these one shots. Have like just fun. Fun is the emphasis. It'll also let me give you guys a bunch of weird boss fights that have mechanics that I haven't tested. Because if you die, you die. Such is the way of the one shot. All right, I think we can call it a day here. I'm happy with how the Candle Tree Archives has shaped up. So I think we'll leave it here. If you guys have any more ideas, I'm gonna probably eventually make that like suggestion box channel on the Discord, just so that we can have like a place for you guys to throw. If there's like a piece of homebrew that you ever read, like even if it's just like an enemy that someone made, or like a lot of people will make like a whole book of like homebrew monsters, or here's a sheet on a homebrew subclass and things like that. If you think it's cool, then just like throw it in there and I'll take a look at it. Things like that, or suggestions for like one-shot ideas. Like if you have an idea of something that you think would make a good one-shot, and maybe we could work it into a real one. Yeah, just like a little suggestion box for constructive criticism. School of Masks for wizards? Oh, College of Masks? Is that like an existing one you've seen? That's out there? Because it's not, it's like sounds vaguely familiar, but but I can't picture it. The amount of homebrew things I've seen. Yeah, then it'd be a place where you could provide links to the stuff too that you found. That way I can go and read it in my own time. Yeah, see? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Ouch. But yeah, then you could just provide the link really easily there, and I can go back and find it when I have the time to read some stuff. Yeah, just things like that, like homebrew ideas or things that you think are cool about D&D. I would recommend it be related to D&D. It'll probably be in the rules of the channel. And then, yeah, it'll just be an opportunity for you guys to sort of show things that you think are interesting. And then if I can find a way to filter them into the world, then I can do so. even if it's just like an enemy you think is cool, or a subclass that you maybe want to play one day. And I'll of course be reading through them, testing for balance and all that, and making sure that they jive with the vibe of the world, the aesthetic of the world, the time period and tech level of the world, and all of that stuff. So I'll be making sure that everything fits. But then it's just a place to kind of, you know, hey, I saw this and it was interesting. Okay, so I'll try and make that, but if you have any ideas in the meantime, just message me like normally on Discord. Like, you can PM me. You don't need to worry about that. Until that channel's made, just send me any ideas you have. There. So, to wrap up, if you are looking for stream times and changes to the schedule, follow me on Twitter, right there. Link is there, @GrandLorian, spelled the same as it is here. If you want to join the Discord that I was just talking about, there's the link. It's not just for players, it's for anybody who wants to check it out. There's art channels for all the campaigns and stuff. There's channels to discuss what happens in all the campaigns. There's meme channels for your ship posts and all sorts of stuff. If you want to get caught up on the campaigns that are currently running or old ones that have ended already, check out the archive on YouTube. I move all the VODs over there so that you can find them if you ever want to return to them. So check that out if you want to get caught up on something. If you, again, want to learn more about the living world that all my campaigns take place in, Grand Lorian, of course, the Star of Lorien, as we were talking about, you can check out the World Anvil. Link is there. It's basically like a wiki for all the factions. Eventually this one will be up there too, in the factions list. Factions, deities, characters, and places that all exist within the Star of Lorien. And so you can do some extracurricular reading if you want to get more invested in the way that the world shapes and grows. But that's basically all I have for tonight. I think we got a lot done, so I'm pretty happy with it. If you are unfamiliar, I have 3 different campaigns running right now, but we're right in a bit of a tough period where a lot of people have exams and are kind of busy with school stuff and life stuff because we're right on the beginning of summer. So things can be a little bit hectic. That's why I have had a bunch of canceled sessions recently. But usually on Tuesdays at this time slot, 7 p.m. Eastern starting, is Whispers in the Woods. It's a group exploring the Feywild, an old abandoned castle in the Feywild, in an attempt to stop black mold from spreading across the forests of the Fey and killing them. And then on Thursdays is Seas of Sand. They are in the Imhara Desert, and they are investigating the connection between Gnollish bandits and Yuan-Ti blood sorcery cultists. Then on Saturdays, Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern as well, but on Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, an hour later, is Dreamwalker, and they are entering the fairy tale landscape of a young girl's dreams in order to kill the demon that is possessing her from within. And they just got through their first dungeon. The campaign has just begun. They only got 4 sessions in, so if you ever want to get caught up, it's a good opportunity to do so. Their campaign is an absolute blast, so check that out. But those are all the campaigns that I run on the channel right now, but there'll be lots more in the future and some one-shots as well, so stay tuned for all that, and it'll be a lot of fun. Other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for those who followed during the stream. And thank you for all your input, because I had fun chatting, and it's always nice to bounce things off the wall and brainstorm alongside chat. So thank you for hanging out and relaxing with me on one of our sort of off nights. And look forward to seeing all of your hard work into designing the Candlestick Consortium be a real thing in the future. We'll do some one-shots, because I already have a bunch of ideas that I think will be really fun. So we'll do it. Other than that, thank you for watching, and have a good night. I will see you all on the next stream. Take care.